Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie and I will be your astrologer today. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be the weekly astro weather for November 21st through the 28th. Hopefully you guys are doing well, especially coming off the heels of that wild eclipse that we had in Taurus. You'll have to let me know how it affected you. This is that magical time in between eclipses where anything goes. So the energy is only going to continue to kind of build as we get closer to the beginning of December, and we have this next eclipse, which will be in Sag. I'll talk about that a little bit more in my monthly video that I'm going to do next week. And equally, I'll make an eclipse video for that as well. I have some really cool stuff I want to talk to you guys about, some things that I kind of dug through the chart and found to be really magical and actually quite lucky, especially if you are a fire sign or have any particular fire placements in your chart. And I will get into it and tell you why. The theme of this week is, what are we leaving behind? As planets get ready to conjoin the South Node in Sagittarius, where collectively we move towards a goal where we let go of what we thought we knew or what we thought we believed in, or old, outdated spiritual belief systems, maybe the story of how things have gone thus far. We're wrapping up things that really we've been working on for the better part of the last 18 months. And really, when you think about it, since the last time that the North Node was actually in Sagittarius. So we're collectively moving on from something and starting like a whole new storyline, which is kind of exciting this week. As planets conjunct the South Node, right, in transit, to me, it's like a releasing or a letting go or a setting free. So there can be some themes that are taking place really between now and the beginning of December where we notice this. And when I think of South Node and Sag, especially as the Sun or Mercury make this conjunction to the South Node, it's like, maybe I don't know everything. Like I find myself saying that to myself a lot recently, especially as the South Node's gone through my third house. It's this realization that I can learn something new every day. I think I have something mastered and I realize that I don't. And so you guys may find some similar themes that are going on over the next couple of days and maybe even into next week, where we're realizing that the story that we've told ourselves for some time is changing. And guess what? That's okay. Finally, the other thing I would say is that it won't just be the Sun and Mercury which make the conjunction, but it will also be Mars. And Mars, I find, is going to be more the cutting, the severing, the releasing, the letting go. That is going to take place finally in December. I think somewhere around the 12th or the 13th, if I remember correctly. So right now this week, as the Sun moves into Sagittarius, it will actually be doing that later today on the 21st. We're going to see that it will then come into conjunction with the South Node. What I like about this is like a release of ego struggles, ego battles, feeling the need to maybe perhaps need to know the visions of the future. Keep in mind that Sag is the ruler of Jupiter and vice versa. I guess Jupiter is the ruler of Sag. And when I think about this, it can be this releasing or letting go of Sag topics. So it can be things relating to travel, international travel, law, legal, perhaps even anything that has to deal with like airplanes. So you're going to see some of this stuff make the news in the next couple of weeks, on top of the fact that we have an eclipse here. Sun South Node in like a natal chart for me is somebody who naturally is like very charismatic. They're very assured and secure with themselves. They're bringing back all of that yummy, warm goodness from a past life. But, and when we're looking at it in transit, it's a loss of power. So I want you guys to pay attention to what's going on there. It can manifest as that literally, where there can be even outages or things that are down, especially connected to aviation. I think we're going to see a lot of this over the next couple of weeks. It makes me think of like what's been going on with Boeing and how it almost seems like Boeing can't really kind of catch a break with everything that's been going on with that company, as well as their stocks. Two is the legal system, and I think this is going to be something that's really interesting to watch, especially as we're kind of coming off the heels of what's been some very intense squares from Libra to Capricorn, and we're getting ready to start this Venus retrograde here pretty soon. So legal rights, our rights when it comes to our bodies, Venus, or maybe even legislation changes, I think, are possibly going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. We want to watch for that. Now, Mercury represents business, contracts, travel, cars, anything that has to do with exchanges and information, right? So when Mercury follows up with this conjunction to the South Node, there can be some kind of news breaking about some severing of contracts, you know, people separating, not continuing to work together, not agreeing on something legally. And Mercury, even though Mercury in Sag is optimistic, it's not really the easiest place to have Mercury, because really we like to see Mercury in a much more kind of detail-oriented sign like Gemini or Virgo, right? So when it gets into a mutable sign, which is changeable, Sag can have a tendency to like blow things out of proportion. So with Mercury in Sagittarius and then Mercury conjunct the South Node, I could see where there's the possibility for like an online rumor to take off like wildfire, and a lot of people to kind of get involved in it and jump in on it, especially anything that has to do with like legal news that's spreading on social media, or something pertaining to news that's spreading that's like global. And so we're already kind of seeing this. That's been amping up over the last couple of days, seeing news about what's going on in places like Australia and also parts of Europe with how they are managing and handling documents and anything pertaining to health mandates. So that's also going to continue to keep being in the news. So let's break down the week day by day. You may want to stay until the end of this video, because this week I do think it's important to give insight into what's probably going to be one of my favorite aspects, and that is going to be a Mercury Cazimi. So if you want to hear how that's going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs, stay tuned. I'm going to pull some cards and talk about where to look for that and what that means for you. So the week is going to start today on the 21st, where the sun enters into Sagittarius, the mutable fire sign. So happy birthday to all my November Saggies. I hope it's a good one for you. Having the sun move into Sagittarius is definitely, especially once it gets away from the South Node, going to, I think, bring a little bit more like optimism, right? We're going to see Sag energy playing very well with Saturn in Aquarius, also with Jupiter in Aquarius, and there is going to be some like collective expansion that's going to be going on. It really kind of lightened things up a little bit, right? We've got a lot of planets that are hanging out in earth and water signs, especially coming out of November this year. It's just been a ton of Scorpio and a ton of Capricorn. And for some people who don't have a lot of earth and water in their chart, it has felt a little bit more emotional or a little bit more challenging than usual. So I think having the sun and even Mercury ingress into a fire sign is going to kind of lighten things up a little bit, and we're really going to start to kind of feel the winds of change in a more positive manner. Also, what we're going to see happening later today is Mercury in Scorpio is coming into a sextile with Pluto in Capricorn. It's kind of been happening already this morning. But really what that's going to do is that's going to help us kind of dig deep and penetrate, get into more serious conversations, be talking about things more seriously regarding the future. It can even be really great for planning. A lot of people who are kind of getting ready and doing their end of the year reports, getting all those receipts together, all of the data, the files, the information, kind of packaging everything up and getting ready to turn that over to you know, their tax people or even their accountants. It's a really wonderful time to start planning and talking about business or resources, money management, you know, saving money, being able to pay things off. This sextile is really, really, really supportive for being able to come up with a plan for the future. So if there's anything you need to talk about that's like more so serious, today's a good day. It's really great also for kind of seeing what lies beneath. I think of Pluto making this aspect to Mercury where there can be almost like this psychological disarming effect where topics that might be harder to discuss or talk about are a little bit easier to kind of get into today. Under the guise of Scorpio and Capricorn, obviously power, money, but also sex, security, long-term planning, death, regeneration, all of these things can be topics that can be coming up for us today. Now, tomorrow on the 22nd, what we're going to be seeing is that Mercury in Scorpio is going to activate the polarity point for the eclipse that we just had. I'm going to say that again. I'll break it down for you because it sounds like astrological Latin. So for me personally, I find that when we have planets that trigger an eclipse that we just had or an angle on an eclipse that we just had, we see stuff happen. So we just had this eclipse a couple days ago in Taurus around 26 degrees. So what we're going to see happen now is Mercury is going to oppose that at 26 of Scorpio. So that means that there's going to be some information, something that changes, maybe something that's uncovered. Mercury's been in a conjunction to Jupiter for like the last 48 hours. So it's almost like information overload. And it will have an effect that's going to, once again, trigger the polarity to wherever this eclipse was. So you want to look at where the Taurus eclipse was in your chart natally. Mercury is going to make an opposition, which means that there can be some bit of information that's relayed to you on the 22nd that pertains to that eclipse that can be challenging because it's in an opposition. So it's pushing you forward, kind of being like, okay, get ready to go. And this is important because Mars is following suit very close by. So sometime in the next week or two, we're going to see Mars in Scorpio come back into that degree and also square Jupiter. So it's going to kind of push something to kind of come to a pop right around the eclipse that we're going to have at the beginning of December. So look for that. I feel like maybe Mars is going to be a little bit more intense and a little bit more triggering. I have found it so interesting that really since about September going into October, the Sun and Mercury have been following very, very closely together. And it has been triggering, especially in the fixed signs, Jupiter, which is saying like, okay, we're going to move forward, we're going to do this. And it's constantly reminding us that both in February, May, and August of 2022, that's when the big changes are really going to happen. So I think a lot of people are still kind of reeling. I mean, I look at like 2021 as like all of us finally coming to terms with what happened in 2020. So we're still kind of emotionally, financially, spiritually, psychologically playing catch up with everything that's happened the last 2 years. But all of that has been pushing us collectively towards big changes and how we're actually working together to initiate these changes all around the world with Saturn in Aquarius. So, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think Mercury square Jupiter can be just too much information. When Mars shows up, that's when we're going to have to make a decision. So watch for that. On the 23rd, we see that the Sun is going to conjunct the South Node in Sag. So this is where I said we really want to pay attention because there is this feeling of releasing and letting go. Or, you know, wherever Sag is in your chart, it's really kind of highlighting, hi, we're closing the chapter. We're putting the book away on this story. We're moving to the next thing. Think of maybe like the next month almost as if like it's the final exam, right? For everything that you've been learning with the South Node in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius can be the bigger picture. It's what's happening globally or what we believe in or what the moral kind of high ground is versus Gemini, which is, okay, that's great, but we need to learn how to communicate. We need to be able to do the general kind of base communication first. We need to know all the facts and the information. We need to see both sides. And it's really interesting how it's kind of played out, especially in a sense of the media just in the last 2 years where suddenly fact checking has become a thing, you know, fake news and where we're getting our news and our information from or what we subscribe to or what social networks we want to belong to. So this is kind of that wrapping up, right? And I think we're going to hear a lot about this in the month ahead and how much that has an effect on our mind, what we think, how we communicate, but equally whether it's really uniting us or dividing us, right? So look for the releasing or letting go happening that day. I still think that the Sun conjunct the South Node is particularly optimistic and more so positive. I feel like where the challenges lie is perhaps where our ego is kind of tugging and saying like, no, I don't want to let this go. It can be more challenging for those who are the early degrees of the mutable signs, particularly Sag, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising, I think are going to get dinged the most because it's on that axis of yourself and other people. So I've seen a lot of Sag and Sag Risings. I know you guys have been going through it. I know it's been challenging. It's important for you to keep pushing through and being kind to yourself and not beating yourself up. That's the best advice I can give you. Not feeling like you're losing yourself. Many Sag and Sag Risings have been feeling like the last 2 years has been challenging because you're no longer who you used to be, but it's scary because you don't know who you're becoming yet. Look forward to that new moon eclipse that's going to be happening in Sagittarius. It's going to help you set the stage for what your life is going to be becoming. So look forward to that. For Gems and Gem Rising, one thing I would say to you is there's a lot changing with relationships right now. There can be flighty people in your life. They can come, they can go. And it's important for you to really take a look at what's worth working for and where can people actually grow together by honoring boundaries and allowing you to just do you and be you and sometimes have space. When you go through a South Node transit in your 7th house, if you're a Gemini rising or an eclipse there, it doesn't mean that you have to lose somebody. If you're in a really strong, solid relationship, it just means that you're evolving and the relationship needs to kind of level up with you, right? On the flip side, many Gems or Gem risings can be feeling more focused on themselves. They need to kind of work on themselves, be alone. It's all about what they think, what they need, or perhaps even traveling by themselves and needing more space away from partnerships. So when these eclipses are happening, when this energy is happening, there can be a sense of you coming to some conclusions about who or what you want to cut from your life, and that may create a little bit of conflict. I'll talk more about that when the eclipses start kind of happening and we get closer to the beginning of December. On the 23rd, also, the moon in Cancer is going to create a nice little trine to Neptune and Mars. So I do feel like it's almost like, you know, if you do have to cut something or if you do have to let something go, the moon in Cancer is very soft and sensitive and nurturing. With the trine to Neptune, I see it as being more emotional or sentimental or understanding, and then it's going to trine Mars. So it's a lot of like, it really hurts me to do this and I don't want to do this, but I have to do this and I love you. Okay, I got to go, right? So there is a sense of more emotion that's attached to this, and it doesn't seem very cold-hearted. I really like that the moon is going to make an opposition also to Venus that day. So I do feel like there is some sensitivity and doing things in a way where it's meant to be. So kind of stick with that energy. Be aware that there is some sense of still releasing and letting go somewhere around early to midweek. Okay. On the 24th, we're going to have Mercury entering Sagittarius. So big stories, big ideas. It's gonna be interesting because the Sun and Mercury are still going to be following each other for quite a bit, for several days. This is really going to highlight communication, travel, ideas, stories. But like I said, there can be tall tales and some things that are just totally blown out of proportion. Pretty much from the 24th until December 1st, the Sun and Mercury will move very closely together. So pay attention to where Sag is in your chart. That's where there's going to be a lot of activity kind of going on. And that's where there's going to be a lot of information that's being exchanged. This is very important for Sag and all mutable signs, especially the first 10 degrees. So if you're anywhere between 0 to 10 degrees of the mutable signs, you are going to feel this the most. On the 25th of the month, we see Mercury conjunct the South Node in Sag. So I'm wholeheartedly fully expecting some kind of like document, information dump, some bit of information that comes to light that we are made aware of sometime between the 25th and the 29th. That's the vibe that I'm getting. So a lot of this is going to be about releasing and letting go of what we thought. Or perhaps maybe even what we thought we believed in. Like I said, the way that I've been navigating this all year, having that South Node in my 3rd house, it's very similar to like the South Node Mercury, is me going like, wow, I thought I knew everything. I realized I don't know everything, or I don't believe in that anymore, or me questioning, why did I believe that for so long? Or why did I have faith in this for so long? So some of these things can kind of come up. There can definitely be some disappointments or some confusion or challenges with communication. I would say this may not be the easiest day to try to push a contract, get something sold, anything like that. There can be some sense of people having challenges with travel this day, or even with transactions or with business. So you want to watch for that. Then also on the 25th, we're also going to see that not only do we have Mercury conjunct the South Node, but the moon in Leo this day will oppose Saturn, okay? So it's coming into the opposition with Saturn. It's bumping into a square with Uranus and Taurus. It's bumping into a square with Mars in Scorpio. My, what a frustrating day. We've got pretty much a fixed square going on all day. And I've said this to you guys before. We actually had this in Scorpio season. Whenever the moon goes into Leo, it's opposing planets in Aquarius, squaring Uranus, squaring planets in Scorpio. So this is a bit of a frustrating day. I think you're going to see a lot of people that just kind of want to they want to get landlocked and they don't want to change something, or they don't want to let something go, or there's some resistance. So especially if you're a fixed sign, I think you're probably going to feel this a little bit more than most people. Seems like the hot spot's going to be anywhere between about maybe 10 and 18 degrees of the fixed signs. So pay attention for some of those frustrations that day. On the 26th, the moon is still in Leo, but the nice thing is that it's making an opposition to Jupiter. Yay! So it's almost like whatever happened on the 25th was like, well, that was frustrating, but here's the real reason why, right? This is why we had to have the drama that we had. Just kind of looking over at how the dates are playing out. Oh my goodness, the 25th, the 26th. It's right over here in the States, what is, Thanksgiving. So I can imagine that there's going to be missed flights, delays, lost cell phones, communication tower issues, pilots that maybe don't show up to work. I mean, definitely some colorful conversation at the dinner table, perhaps with some family members, especially pertaining to maybe politics or maybe religion or belief systems. I mean, oh man, the last 2 years having these, aspects in Sagittarius has always kind of played out during this time of the year. Now, on one hand, I see it as the opportunity to open up our minds and be more open-minded about other cultures, belief systems, where people come from, what we really stand for, right? But on the other side, I kind of look at this and go there can be some people who are not necessarily seeing eye to eye, and yeah, it can definitely kind of inflate some issues at the dinner table. So maybe you want to stay away from religion, politics, anything that's going on legally. These may be some much more sensitive subjects this next week. On the 27th, this is the last quarter square of the moon. So the moon is moving into Virgo this day. It is going to square the sun, Mercury, and Sag. And this is the last square before we come into what will be the new moon and then the eclipse the beginning of December. Now, is this a really, really important day? Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like this can bring up the energy of what we need to get rid of, let go of, disperse right before we come into the eclipse. So you might notice that on this day, it's a lot of I'm cleaning out the garage. I'm deleting that person off Facebook. I'm quitting my job. There can be a lot of people finally going that's it. I've had enough. And it's the setup right before we come into what will be the eclipse, which will be a clean slate, that new moon in Sagittarius. Now, the eclipse isn't going to be until the 4th, but it will be at 12 degrees of Sag. And so this is what I find kind of interesting. If you are somebody who has any placements right around, 12 degrees of the fire signs, pay attention, because there are some interesting things that are going to be happening pretty much from the 27th on. On the 28th this month, we see the sun will conjunct Mercury in Sag. So a day where we highlight communications, business, information, transactions, and it's at a 6, so it's in a Virgo degree. But it's going to be like cutting through tall tales, being able to get down to details, being able to make plans, being able to kind of even have like an aha moment when it comes to what you want to share, or even perhaps what you believe in. It's another way I can see this. I'm liking the Sun Mercury's trine to Aries, where we have Chiron. I feel like this is where we start to kind of feel a little bit more like the story is changing. We can talk about where we've come from, what we've endured, what we've dealt with, what we've healed. And there's something about this that feels like almost like an opportunity to teach or share or help heal other people. It's like everybody loves a good underdog story, right? That's how these Sun Mercury trines to Chiron kind of makes me feel. So I think you're going to see a lot of people sharing, I've been there, done that, or this is where I came from. This is how I lost the 50 pounds. This is how I recovered from my wife leaving me. You know, this is how I dealt with, being fired. And really it was the best thing that ever happened because I went off and wrote my novel. These are the kinds of things that we're going to hear people talking about. And it's really important to share that collectively with other people because of the sextiles to Saturn and Aquarius, where we can actually help groups of people come together and share. And I think it's not just about their beliefs, like from a religious standpoint, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be really focused, I think, on integrity. And where integrity is so important for us to be able to kind of really clean up some of the issues that we have had going on the last couple of years. Now, on the 28th of the month, later in the day, okay, so this is going to be in the evening hours, I think sometime around 10 to 10:30 p.m. Pacific time on the 28th. This is my favorite aspect. This is going to be when we see a Mercury Cazimi. I think maybe you guys have heard me talk about that before. Basically, Kazimi is an astrological term for where the Sun and Mercury are moving together. Mercury actually passes the Sun, and it's going to be right in front of the Sun, and within, I think, 17 or 18 minutes, I believe. Let me see, did I put this in my notes? I don't know the exact degrees, but it'll move in front of the Sun. So traditionally, when any planet is within 10 degrees of the Sun, it can be kind of blown out, right? Like it's almost like everything gets overshadowed by the Sun. It burns up because it's too hot. But the Sun Mercury Cazimi is one of my favorites because it often brings information or a message or an unexpected conversation or an email or a chance meeting that's very lucky. Okay, this is something that Mercury basically gets ahead of the Sun and goes, here, I have this for you. This is an envelope, and it has something to do with your destiny, right? Especially when it's in Sag, it's very, very, very lucky and very magical. So those of you guys who have any planets anywhere around 12 degrees of the fire signs, pay attention. This is going to probably affect you a little bit more. So if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising around 12 degrees, if you have a north node around 12 degrees, if you have a Venus, if you have a Jupiter, this trine is basically going to be a little piece of information. And if you are paying attention and if you are in connection with Mercury on the evening of the 28th, you will get this little sweetness that I think is going to be really important. It's foreshadowing something that is coming up in the future, because we are going to see that Mars and Jupiter are going to be squaring in this next week. So Jupiter is the dispositor of the Sun and Mercury. It talks about the future. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about where to look for this Mercury Cazimi in your chart. Please let me know if you have any personal mega placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe a Jupiter or a Venus around 12 degrees of the fire sign, especially if you're a Sag or a Sag Rising. This can be like this epiphany that you have, something that's really important. Yeah, I'm excited to see how this plays out, because I think that this is the little bit of sweetness that we get right before the eclipse. And you'll get that insight about what the eclipse will be about, because guess what? The eclipse is also going to be at 12 degrees. Okay. So let's see how it's going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. Listen for your rising, your sun, and your moon sign. For my predictions, the rising is what typically tends to physically happen. The sun is how things are playing out pertaining to you personally, maybe, or maybe your career, or just what little bits and pieces of advice that you need on a personal level for growth and happiness. But I have found that the moon sign can be pretty accurate as well. This will also be the same area of your chart where we will have the eclipse. So like I said, this is going to give you some insight as to little cosmic messages from Mercury prior to the eclipse, but I'll get into the eclipse in a separate video, probably in the next week or so. So for Aries and Aries rising, this the Mercury Cazimi will be happening in your 9th house, okay? So I could see this as a situation where you receive an important bit of news pertaining to education, traveling, maybe a document like a passport or purchasing a ticket or an opportunity to start a course, take a course, learn something. I feel like for you also it could possibly be scheduling, something involving scheduling. So you could definitely be somebody who's a little bit more affected more than most people when it comes to travel plans. So if you start getting the vibe that that's going to happen, especially right around the 28th for anything future related, you can plan accordingly. This is where I believe we connect, you know, with our belief system or connect with the gods. You know, the 9th house is what we connect to up in the spiritual realm or with gurus or anything pertaining to our actual belief system. Queen of Swords. So interesting, right? Because Mercury rules your 3rd house. It also rules your 6th house. And so this can actually be like a Gemini coming in, relaying an important message. It can be that you decide you want to write something, publish something, teach something. But this is about you either relaying ideas, sharing ideas, or something pertaining to an important conversation. Look for that because that will be coming for you. For Taurus and Taurus rising, this is going to be a kazimi happening in your 8th house. This is other people, other people's money. So this can be something pertaining to like a spouse or a business partner and joint finances. It can have something to do with some kind of unexpected expense. So it can be, you know, a bill that suddenly comes in or something that you realize that you need to pay off, or suddenly being in a situation where there's a chunk of change that may even come in. Having this go through your 8th house, I also feel like is going to trigger stuff pertaining to like intimacy. So there needs to be an acute sense of awareness that there can be conversations that come up that deal with like life and death matters, deal with joint money, deal with insurance, things like that that you need to be aware of. Oh, well, it looks pretty positive for you, Taurus. 10 of coins. So this is talking about like inheritance, or this is talking about long-term financial planning. This can even be talking about like long-term like family planning. Like the 10 of coins comes up when it's like talking about, okay, paying houses off, or being able to take out mortgages, or being able to invest in a business, or establishing something that's going to be long-term financial goals that you're going to have with another person. So look for that conversation to be coming up. It may even be that you start some kind of financial planning. So if you're like interested in like you and a partner, you and a business partner talking to a financial planner about even like a 10-year plan, that might be something that comes up for you. For Gemini and Gemini rising, this is your 7th house. This will be particularly active because to me it seems like there can be very important messages, because Mercury is your chart ruler, coming from other people. Now it can be things like somebody saying to you, you know, are you aware of your behavior? Are you hearing me? Are you listening to me? Are you there for me? You can get some really reactionary responses from people as a result of this particular kazimi, and also because of the eclipse that's coming. So what I want you to really think about is, are you listening, or are you just waiting to talk? Geminis, you guys are always chatty, but there can be some really important messages about your behavior, about people asking you what you want, what you think, if you want to participate in a relationship, if you're open to taking the next step in a relationship, and you need to participate in these conversations. It doesn't mean you have to agree, it doesn't mean you need to go with it, but you do need to respond and really hear what other people are telling you they have to say, because there can be somebody who gives you some really important advice that will aid in your own personal development, or who can also help you become the best version of you. 4 of Wands. Gemini, are you getting married? Like, what's going on? Like, this is a card that somebody's saying, like, somebody could say to you, like, oh no, I'm looking for something serious. And you're going to be like taken off guard, right? This is a card that talks about marriage. This is about union, celebrations, togetherness. Can it be the beginning conversations about serious commitment, proposals, marriage, unions, celebrations? Absolutely. This is a card where somebody is asking you, do you want to come and do the dance of life with me? Do you want to celebrate things with me? And to me, it seems like it's very positive. It may take several weeks or several months to come to fruition. To me, it seems like it's the beginning process of talking about this. And it would not surprise me for some Geminis right around the time of the eclipse that that is the next phase of major changes in relationships for the better part of the next 6 months. Looks pretty positive. For Cancer and Cancer rising, this is a Mercury Cazimi in your 6th house. This tells me that there can be some important information that comes up for you pertaining to your health, travel plans, scheduling plans, dietary changes. You know, I think about Mercury ruling your 12th house and where like anxiety is getting the best of you maybe, or there can be some challenges revolving around like lack of sleep and you're like, what's going on? Or dietary changes, digestional issues. All of these things can come up as a result of the Cazimi. However, if you are somebody who's like, I'm looking for the perfect, you know, doctor to figure out what's going on with this ailment, or I'm looking for the perfect assistant, or the perfect whatever to help you with whatever your crisis or your issue is. Some of you guys might feel you need assistance. Some of you guys feel like you need some kind of somebody to help you organize and plan. It will come in for you, okay? The High Priestess says, be aware of your vision. So if you're getting anxious because you don't feel like there's enough hours in the day or you need some kind of assistance with something, focus more on manifesting what you want your life to look like or feel like, whether it's your health, your schedule, or just feeling like you have more clarity and peace of mind because you have more organization. So you may bring somebody in who can sit down with you and go, okay, you know, tell me what it is that what you need. And they may connect you with the right person, or you might find the perfect PR person or the perfect assistant who can come in and maybe they're super tapped in and they know exactly what you need. And you just kind of tell them, hey, this is how I see things going. And they just go and handle it. So focus on that. And also your intuition, because your intuition may be very strong. So you might reach a breaking point where you're like, that's it. I need to hire somebody. We've got Leo next, and Leo rising. This is a Cazimi that's happening in your 5th house of children, creativity, true love, happiness. To me, it seems like it can play out a couple of different ways. One is you may get some kind of information from somebody where they're telling you how they feel, right? Queen of Wands. There may be a very passionate individual that you're going back and forth with. I see like the sun coming together with Mercury there where you're going to maybe have baby fever. Maybe you want to tell somebody you love them. Maybe somebody tells you they love you. But there is like this rush of really intense, passionate energy. It can be that you feel more creative and that you have more of an interest in working on a hobby. Sharing this with somebody, this can be you as a fire sign, but this can also be you dealing with a Sag or you dealing with an Aries, or somebody coming in to kind of help you bring something to life, right? Like the Queen of Wands likes to be able to put everything together and like put on a show. So if you're looking for somebody to help you take yourself creatively to the next level, that person can appear. Certainly, a Mercury Cazimi here can also be there being some kind of news about your love life, dating, or even pregnancy or children that's coming in. So that's something else that you want to pay attention to. So if that's something that you're focused on or that you really want to work on, it would not surprise me. If you're trying to get pregnant, I would say watch out, because between this aspect and also the eclipse that's coming on the 5th can really be putting things in motion to like make all of that happen and come together a lot sooner than you're aware of. Mid-December, Mars is going to go into this part of your chart. So if you're looking to get pregnant, certainly Mars in the 5th can definitely make that happen. So we've got next Virgo and Virgo rising. This is a Mercury Cazimi in your 4th. I'm wondering, like, is there a situation where maybe you're thinking about moving, Virgo, or there's just like too much stuff going on, like where you're currently living? Maybe you get news from family, or maybe you're planning a trip to go back home and visit. Something like this can come about as a result of that. Mercury is your chart ruler. And it also deals with your 10th house of career. So when these two planets come together in your fourth, it can be like you going, do I just want to like take off for the next month and just like work from home and go and visit my family for the holidays? That can come up. But there can be some change in your travel plans or some change in where you're actually living. Pay attention to that if you're looking for a new home, or if you're wanting to change homes, or if you're wanting to sell or sign a new lease. This can bring the perfect opportunity. You might suddenly find something and realize like, wow, I didn't think I was ready to move yet, but like this is an awesome deal. In the next couple of weeks, when Mars gets into your fourth house and there's an eclipse, it's trying to get you to either move, deal with your emotional health, deal with the past, or go and have time with your family. So I think all of these things are going to happen for Virgos. So let's see how this is going to play out for you with the cards. Knight of Cups. This is actually, I think this is really good for you, because I think about like, not just the transits in your fourth house where there's just a lot of emotional like house cleaning, but I think it's also really opening you up and getting you ready for sweeter connections with people. There can be somebody who is spending a lot of time at your house, or maybe you're spending a lot of time at somebody else's house. Maybe it's just starting to kind of blossom into something really nice and sweet and emotional. This can be you realizing that you're really open to love again. If you haven't been in a relationship for a while, somebody can kind of come in and sweep you off your feet. You can just be feeling a little bit more emotional and sentimental and sensitive than usual with all the planets in your fourth house as well. And so I see the Knight of Cups as like you kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve and being in a situation where you're more willing to be open with other people. So I think it'll play out very nicely, especially with Venus in your fifth house right now. It's very, very, very good for Virgos, especially if you guys have felt like you've been a little unlucky in love. The tide is turning. For Libras and Libra risings, this is your third house, which deals with siblings, contracts, cars, communication. Libra and Libra rising, pay attention when you are driving. Do not be texting and driving. You shouldn't be doing that anyway, but really don't be doing that with some of the transits that are coming up. I can see the Mercury Cazimi can be an important email, a conversation, a document, something that comes through, a text message, a really unexpected something that kind of catches you off guard, especially because Mercury rules your 12th house. If you are stressed out, I think it may be good for you to be meditating or journaling. There can be a sense of you wanting to go deeper into learning about metaphysics and esoteric topics. So you may feel more like you want to hide away, be in a room, reading by yourself, meditating, really kind of tuning in. You might notice that there's much more daydreaming that's going on, or there's much more of a sense of you wanting to be jotting things down that maybe you see in a dream, or automatic writing can be really good for you as well. But I say be careful with driving, because the Sun Mercury Cazimi can highlight a sense of you not being all aware when you're in your car, okay, or when you're in transit, or overlooking certain things when you're signing contracts. Pay attention to conversations. There can be things that can come up that involve travel. There can also be a bit of conflict that comes up regarding either neighbors or a sibling, so there can be a little strife there in the next couple of weeks. So let's see what the cards say for Libra rising. Three of Cups. This is a positive card. I will say that. This is a positive card, but I feel like this happening in your third house, you want to watch out for like almost being too friendly with people. Like there can be a sense of you communicating with somebody and it being misconstrued as like, you know, you're kind of flirting with them, or being affectionate with them. And somebody taking that communication the wrong way, and it can get a little complicated if you're in a relationship, because somebody can kind of look at it as like, okay, well, what are you doing? We're together. Why are you talking to somebody like this? Somebody can kind of stir the pot. Three of Cups, though, is generally a positive card. It does talk about coming together, celebrating, being able to bring things together. But I think really what this is kind of saying is if you have been in a situation where you're weighing your options between two people, you're gonna have to choose one. If you find that you've been kind of thinking about somebody a lot, that can easily manifest. And I would say be careful, because there can end up being that third party that comes in that causes some strife. Honesty is really important with this too. So it's like if you are somebody who's in a relationship and somebody comes back, or if somebody from the past comes back, especially with Venus in your fourth, it's important to be very forthcoming about where you stand in your current kind of life situation. And if you're not available, be forthcoming. Otherwise, somebody can misconstrue that and cause a little bit of problems. We've got Scorpio next, and Scorpio rising. This is a Mercury Cazimi in your second house. Scorpio and Scorpio rising, pay attention. There is going to be information that comes financially for you that maybe like a little bit of cosmic insight about future gains financially. So this can be like stock tips. This can be research information that you do on investments. It can be that you have a sudden hunch or a feeling where something happens around the 28th and you're like, you know what? I'm going to pull the trigger. I feel really good about this. I feel like it's going to be really valuable down the road. If something like that happens for you, then I would say go with it, because you know, the sun and Mercury coming together in your second house is all about money, business, success, security, stability. It's sticking to your guns also, because it's like a second house is like a Taurus energy. So it's like, I value this. This is what I value. This is what I know. Can be a day also where you decide to make a purchase, possibly on a vehicle. Or you're deciding that you're going to buy like a new piece of equipment, like you're going to get a new laptop or a new phone or something like that, that you feel like you need to have in order to kind of gain in some way. Can be investments that you make in tech stocks also, or maybe the beginning of you deciding that you're going to start a business. Money, Ace of Coins. So this is basically saying like, this is you planting a financial seed. Something is going to happen as a result of the transits right around the end of this week that's going to be about your future finances. And it looks good. The future is bright. You have to plant that seed in order for it to come full circle, right? What I think is really interesting is like, I think this is the polar opposite of what Taurus had, which is kind of cool because it's the opposite axis. So where Taurus is like, oh yeah, everything's coming together, Scorpio is like, I'm just getting ready to get started. So it's very complementary. This can also be about changes in what you're eating, your diet, your health, and you being more focused on what you're putting in your body. This can also just be a sign that you're really feeling yourself, like you're kind of feeling like your energy is coming together and you're feeling very confident. Second house is about not necessarily confidence, but like your self-esteem. So remember that you're only going to make whatever you feel like you're worth. So there's a lot of leveling up and going like, no, I deserve better. I deserve more, and really holding out for that and knowing that when you're investing in yourself and your health, then everything else is going to go the distance. For Sag and Sag rising, this is a moment where you benefit. I'm not going to say you should. It's not my job to tell you guys what you should do. You benefit from letting go of negative self-talk. You benefit from paying attention to your body and what your body is saying, what your body is doing, and learning that it's okay to communicate differently. It's okay to let your guard down. There's going to be a lot of you, I think, feeling like you need to make a phone call, have a conversation, hash it out with somebody, make a statement, release something. Having the Sun and Mercury in your first house is like a very Aries energy, right? It's just kind of like shoot first, ask questions later. So there can be a sense of you being a little impatient, a little rushed, coming across very intense, but at the same time, this is a really awesome time to be focusing on your goals, what you need, what you want, and like really becoming cool with you, right? And loving you and accepting you and being in that place of just knowing that when you're in that, everything else kind of comes together. So let's see what the cards say for you. Six of Coins. So this is about paying it forward, being appreciative, being humble. being thankful for the people who've helped get you to where you are, maybe wanting to kind of pay that back cosmically in some way, where if you feel like you have advice or something you can share with people because people have helped you, you're going to in turn kind of, like I said, pay it forward. Six of Coins is also like if you are in need of help or assistance, somebody will be there to help you. Sixes are always about sorting something out. So if you have, some anxiety issues or anything that's going on pertaining to like nervousness or kind of feeling like your energy is like really wound up, going and finding somebody you can talk to or finding somebody you can work out with or somebody who can kind of help you get that outlet is really going to allow you to realize like it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do everything on your own. People are there to assist you. You have a lot that you have learned through the last year and a half in terms of changes in your life that can be so beneficial and helpful for other people that sometimes just speaking out and sharing your story, you never know who that's going to positively affect. Okay. For Cap and Cap rising, Sun Mercury conjunction in your 12th. Sounds to me like getting a psychic reading, getting some insight, looking into a crystal ball, doing some dream analysis. You can feel, because now that we're in Sag season, a little like, oh my God, what's going on? This is the month before your birthday where things naturally kind of come to a close and they wind down. So that way you can start your next year fresh. So Sun Mercury in the 12th can have you feeling a little hermity, a little paranoid, a little anxious, a little under the weather, a little mentally stressed and kind of feeling super taxed. It's important that you're paying attention to this energy, Capricorn, because soon there is going to be a Venus retrograde in your sign where if you're overworking yourself, super stressed out, not taking good care of yourself, not sleeping well, all of that is going to physically start to kind of catch up with you. So this is the very beginning process of like realizing like, hey, you know what? If I keep going like this, I'm not going to be able to kind of do this forever. I'm going to be burnt out. Or if you need to seek spiritual assistance, you need to talk to a reader, talk to a therapist, talk to a healer, go on a retreat. If you need time alone, I think that's really what you're going to be feeling. Take that time. Go out and be in nature. Go on a trip. Book a weekend where you can get away. Be on your own. See what that feels like. Allow yourself to have that downtime. Allow yourself to go deep into a spiritual routine, whether it's doing some kind of meditating or chanting, or possibly just working with somebody who can help you kind of navigate some of the energies that may be your blind spots, right? Because your 12th house is your blind spot. So that way you feel like you're really ready to go when it comes to be birthday time. So more rest and recuperation is necessary. The card that you get is Strength. So this is cool because I think what it's saying is that there's a lot of assistance coming for you where there is fire placement in your chart, which is true. There are going to be fire signs and trines and things like that are going to be happening. I see it more as Leo being actually your 8th house. And so that's talking about regeneration, transformation, dealing with fears, psychological triggers, traumas, and strength being not physical strength, but emotional, spiritual, or psychological. This can be talking about a Leo or like a warmer energy coming into your life, somebody who is nurturing and fun and I think kind of like youthful. Equally, this can be talking about like really realizing that strength is not just about physical strength. It's about learning to let go and let things be, and whatever is meant to be will be. So acceptance is a huge part of this. And I would say like non-attachment is something that you want to be focusing on, or not feeling like there needs to be like conditional relationships. It's just being open and like loving, even if you know that somebody can't quite show up for you, or vice versa right now. Getting lots of sunlight can be important. So whether you are somebody who is in the sunshine, a sunshine state, I guess, go out and spend more time there. If you're somebody who's kind of feeling the winter blues already, maybe consider going and doing like an infrared sauna or something where you're going to get that light. So that way it's going to kind of help you get you out of your funk. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is your 11th house. Such a great place to have a Sun Mercury Cazimi. I think maybe getting a phone call from a friend about a party, somebody reaching out to you about a networking opportunity, becoming super aware of your goals. And, you know, the 11th house is like the party that you have on Friday night after working all week, right? That's where we celebrate. So it can be that somebody sends you an invitation in the mail to like this great event that's coming up and it's going to be a lot of fun. Or maybe you are invited to go and join an association or a group. Maybe you make a new friend online, or you get invited to like a club of some kind. It's also about the opportunity maybe to travel, I think, with a friend. Justice is an interesting card to pull for this because it can be insinuating that there is some realization that comes about relationships and about karmic balance and what you need from other people, and that there is a give and take. So it can be that perhaps maybe somebody's talking to you about a relationship. Somebody says, hey, come to this party. I want to introduce you to someone. This can also be talking about Libra, okay, which is a sister sign for you when you think about it. Libra is your 9th house. So is it possible that you get invited to a wedding and it's going to be in another city? Is it possible that somebody says to you, hey, I really want to set you up with somebody. I think you guys would be a really good match. There's some sense of you coming together with other people and karmic aspects being at play. So think about relationships, think about the balance, think about what you have to offer other people, what other people have to offer you. Be open to receiving, because this is a card that's about somebody giving you some type of advice or some kind of assistance, but more in a relationship sense, right? Partnership or affiliation. And last but not least, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. This is a Kazimi in your 10th house. What a wonderful time to make a big statement when it comes to your career. So if you want to apply for a job, if you want to talk to your boss about getting a raise, if you're going to have a status change, if you are getting ready to launch a business, like all of this stuff is happening right around the Kazimi and then the eclipse. So this is a wonderful time for Pisces for their career. It's a wonderful time for feeling like they're getting seen. There's visibility. I'm so excited for Pisces and Pisces rising because of this aspect, and also Jupiter's coming back into your sign. So you're gonna see that it's like all eyes are on you, Pisces, especially now through about March of next year. There's a lot going on where there's just more visibility. So if you've been waiting for recognition, if you've been waiting for that pat on the back, if you've been waiting for that big breakthrough when it comes to your career, especially if you're somebody who wants to be like on the world stage and you want to be seen, visibility is coming for you. Wow, 10 of coins. So this is about abundance. This is about success, but this is about success that's long standing. So some of you guys are like not so focused on like, well, you know, I'm just going to do something to get by. A lot of you guys are like, no, I have a long-term plan. I know the kind of money I want to make. I know the life that I want to live. And I know that I want it to be comfortable. I want it to be nice. I want it to be lavish. I want to be able to not just survive. I want to thrive. So there's a lot of this right now. There can also be big changes happening for family members or, you know, male figures. I think of the 10th house as like bosses, husbands, brothers, fathers. There's something that's going on here that's also getting triggered where the 10th house isn't just about career. For some of you guys, you're realizing you want to get married. You're realizing also that you want to partner with people. So this is like a really big time for you where you're making adult decisions, and people are going to start seeing you really kind of coming into your own, not just in a financial sense, but in terms of your maturity and like really feeling like you're leveling up in the world. Awesome card for you, Pisces. So, so, so good. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I'm so stoked to see what happens as a result of the transits, especially later in the week. If you have any planets around 12 degrees of the fire signs, let me know how it plays out for you. I would love to hear it. Next week, I'm going to be back and I'm going to do the monthlies for December. Oh my gosh, it's almost December. It's the end of the year. So stay tuned for that. I should have that out for you guys next Sunday. Yeah, but join me for my monthly address. I'll do predictions for each and every one of the 12 signs. I'll briefly go into the most important transits of the month, what to expect, and I may touch a little bit on the eclipse, but that will be a separate video. This week I'm going live probably on Friday. It might be Saturday, and it's going to be on my channel in the evening. And this week we're going to be doing live astrology questions. Any question you want for $40, $65 for a synastry. I'll be posting that later this week. So if you want to go and get in the queue and you want to purchase a question, please do. We have a QR code now, which is cool. We've got Super Chat. We've also got a PayPal link. So if you want to be somebody who I can answer a question for, I'll get that out for you. If you are a level 3 subscriber, that's the benefit of subscribing to my channel. With that level 3 subscription, you support the channel, you get a shout out, but also you're gonna get one question answered by me, tarot or astrology, once a month. So you get to choose which one you'd like. It's an awesome way to be able to also just touch base with me if you have questions month to month. And I always answer questions for my level 3 subscribers first, so it's going to guarantee that you are going to get a response from me for some of your most important questions. We are putting out a brand new podcast on my Midheaven podcast. It's all going to be about Sag season. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be out Monday. So make sure you check out my channel. If you haven't already, liked and subscribed both to mine and the Midheaven if you want to be on the up and up when we have new videos out. This one is particularly funny and we go deep into the astrology of Sag, what we expect, and also the eclipse. And I am now back. I've been gone for like almost the last 2 weeks, so it's nice to be back working again. I was off traveling, celebrating my birthday, and I got married. So I am now taking clients again. I have bookings if you would like to book with me. I have openings now going into the new year. I'm always booked anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks at a time. So if you want to get a New Year's reading or a birthday reading, check out my links below and my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com, where it's a combination of Western and evolutionary astrology and what I see clairvoyantly working with the tarot. I'm planning something super special for you guys. I plan on going live on New Year's Day. So I'm going to be getting all the information out for that probably in like the next 2 weeks. I'm going to have a live stream. We're going to hang out, talk about all the astrology for 2022. I'm going to have it purely donation based. So if you want to join me in the chat, you want to tag along and chit chat about the most important transits of 2022, celebrate the new year with me and drink some champagne on the internet, please do. If you guys support the channel, you also make it possible for me to do that stuff. I would love to go live for the Venus retrograde video, but there's just so much information that's going to be put into it that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to do that, but I promise you it's worth waiting for, and it's coming very soon. I'm going to talk a lot about what this particular Venus retrograde looks like for each of the 12 signs, but also what to expect as a result of some of the conjunctions and how it may affect America's chart. So stay tuned for all that stuff. It's coming very soon. I'm working hard on all this content for you guys. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know below, and I hope you guys enjoy your week, and I will see you very soon. Take care.